Okay, welcome to Golden Mountain, Golden Meadow. Now back again after a long time. I didn't have any much time to talk about what we were reading last time. It was grade 10. I remember last time when I came live. Now since we've got grade 12 book, a long awaited book for grade 12, we are having a lot of hectic time at this moment because of lack of grade 12's new curriculum. When grade 12 classes are not running smoothly, now we have got this ebook, so I thought that first of all we'll start reading this text, okay, so that the people in remote areas who can only access at least YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or something like that, they can access at least this reading portion and they'll understand what it is. But I am also going to give another one. I'm also giving you another in detail version of a video. I'm going to make a video separately rather than going for reading text. If you just need to read the text, you can just have this glance on it, because I'm going to give it in in reading format only. But the next video I'm going to go with the entire detail related to how you have to go about reading on the way that we are supposed to read in grade 12. Again, in grade 12 we do have about the author, we do have summary with plot, synopsis, we do have figurative tools, we do have extended activities, we do have questions, answers, and all these we're going to deal in separate videos, which I would be obviously having a video with good resolution, better resolution than this live, because the live stream, I think we are not getting enough system to cope up with what we're supposed to have. Okay, I think first of all I need to change this resolution, which I tried, because it seems like the texts are quite blurred. Okay, so with this text you can only see kind of blurry kind of text, but what I read, probably you'd be understanding this. I hope that you would be understanding, or you'd be getting some part of what you're supposed to get from this grade 12's reading. So I'm directly jumping into second section, because first section we obviously will be doing separately in small videos. Regarding the second section is very important, and most of the colleges, they teach this part very seriously, in depth, and in a broad manner, which you need to understand each and everything. So we have, as usual, in grade 11 section 2 literature portion, where we have seven stories as first type of genre. Then we do have 5 poems and another types of genre. Okay, so we do have, like, if you scroll it down, we do have 3 essays to learn as well. Okay, 3 essays, or we do have 5 essays, actually 5 essays to learn, sorry. And we have 1 act plays, the dramas that we were supposed to do in grade 12, and we do have 3 dramas for this year. So it's very important year, actually. This is grade 12, so you need to complete entire lessons. On top of that, this certificate that you would be receiving in +2 would be equivalent to A-level examinations certification. So it's going to be used for international purpose, for international admission, for it will be equivalent to A-level, means it will be accepted around the world. So it's very important that you score the highest mark for upgrading yourself, for getting your full-fledged teaching learning activities, and for your greater future. So I would simply thank CDC department for giving us this particular book on time, though it was long awaited. We expected that it would come in almost at the end of Shravan, but anyway, delayed but still justified, and we have got it in the at this point, almost at the end of, or maybe in the middle of Bhadra. So it's a matter of glee and happiness for everybody that we got this book, so we can run our classes smoothly. For grade 12, it's a very good opportunity that you got the book, and you can go about it smoothly. But Okay, the thing happened is like till last year we had different type of curriculum. We had different type of syllabus. We had different type of topics to change, and this year we do have drastically new ones. Means it's gonna be a lot of a lot of tension, because we are the one who has just started this course. Means it's a new course. It will be very difficult for you to find out the different resources regarding regarding approaching different levels of answering the questions, and also approaching different type of subject matters, or let's say references that you need to find out. So it's very difficult. So what I thought, let's begin reading today, and tomorrow we can have another updated video, separate video for summary of the entire text individually for each unit. And then we can go for Nepali version as well, the same English version. I think I would be able to convert in Nepali for the remote people who can hardly understand the English language, but they will understand in their own language, and they try to convert while summarizing or while answering in the examination through their recognition, through their cognitive understanding that they would do from Nepali. They would try to convert in English, and they'll try at least to get 60 percentage or above marks. So with this view, with this perspective, I think I should start the first lesson that we are going to study. It's at page number 88. So I'll begin with the first one. Okay, curriculum bhaite. Okay. Right. Okay, so we do have the first lesson, short stories written by short stories is one of the genres, and we out of 4 different genres that are published in CDC's book. We have first one in first unit as short stories, where we have 7 stories to learn, and first one that we are going to learn is Neighbours by Tim Winton. So let's see. Before reading, discuss the following questions. They are the rapport building questions for you. How many languages are spoken in your country? We are multilingual. Okay. Do people in your community understand each other's mother tongue? Obviously, we do have one basic mother tongue called Nepali language. So it's kind of good communicating medium for entire Nepalese people, and it's an official language for Nepal as well. So you can answer like that. How do the neighbors help each other in your neighborhood? We are all very cooperative. We are all very pacific. Obviously, there are ups and downs in our countries, like anything. Some are restless, some are hyperactive, some are hyper ambitious, some are lazy, some are as it's like 5 different fingers in our hands, which are not actually are equal, but they all have their own values. Every single gesture that we make out of these fingers are as valuable as any of these. Okay, let's go with the about the author. Okay, who the author is, who has written the short story Neighbours. Okay, Tim Winton, full name Timothy John Winton, was born in 1960, is an Australian author of both adult and children's novels that deal with both the experience of life in and the landscape of the native country. He competed with 35 other novelists for the Australian Literary Award, presented for the best unpublished novel manuscript, and won the prize in 1982 for his manuscript, An Open Swimmer. His novels include That Eye, The Sky in 1986, Dirt Music 2001, and Breath 2008. He also wrote several children's books, including Loki Leonard, Human Torpedo 1990, The Bugalogs Bum Thief 1991, and The Deep 1998. This story, Neighbours, has been taken from Migrants of Australia, edited by Harwood Lawler. It is a story about a newly married couple living in a multicultural and multilingual suburb neighborhood. It shows that cultural and linguistic barriers cannot stop people from bestowing love and compassion. So we are actually, almost everybody is dreaming to go to foreign lands after the education is complete. So after plus 2, they target. After bachelor's, they target to go to America, go to Australia, go to German, go to at least native English speaking countries. It will be easier. So what they first target is, okay, let's go to Australia. Many of the Nepalese are living there. It's a growing country, so let's be there. Now what happens over there? We do have multicultural. Okay, many people are coming over there, migrating that side. Yeah, means many different cultural background are in one single country. So they do have many languages. How do they understand each other? How do they celebrate the culture? They're not like our society, where entire society observes same Gai Jatra festival. It's not. It's not. It's quite different in Australia. So they have got different type of cultural backgrounds at the same time. One neighborhood, one house would be observing one kind of festival, and other would be getting puzzled what they are observing, what type of festivals they are having. They are coming up with different type of gestures, dances, musics, drums. Oh, so that what is happening. Let's get into the subject, the story, what he has written. When they first moved in, the young couple were wary of the neighborhood. The street was full of European migrants. It made the newlyweds feel like sojourners in a foreign land. Next door on the left lived a Macedonian family. On the right, a widow from the Poland. The newlyweds' house was small, but its high ceilings and paned windows gave it a feel of an elegant cottage. From his study window, the young man could see out over the rooftops and used car yards the Moreton Bay figs in the park where they walked their dog. The neighbors seemed cautious about the dog, a docile, moulting collie. The young man and woman had lived all their lives in the expansive outer suburbs where good neighbors were seldom seen and never heard. The sounds of spitting and washing and daybreak watering came as a shock. The Macedonian family shouted, ranted, screamed. It took 6 months for the newcomers to comprehend the fact that their neighbors were not murdering each other, merely talking. The old policeman spent most of his day hammering nails into wood only to pull them out again. His yard was stacked with salvaged lumber he added to it, but he did not build with it. Relations were uncomfortable for many months. The Macedonians raised eyebrows at the late hour at which the newcomers rose in the mornings. The young man sensed their disapproval at his saying, staying home to write his thesis while his wife worked. He watched in disgust as the little boy next door urinated in the street. He once saw him spraying the cat from the back step. The child's head was slaved regularly, he assumed, in order to make his hair grow thick. The little boy stood at the fence with only his cobalt eyes showing. It made the young man nervous. Okay, at this point, I know. At this point, I know this text is quite blurry. Still, you have to hang on the text that I'm reading. I'm very much sure that you can hear what I'm reading, and let's try to understand the text. As you have a little background setting of a neighborhood where there are lots of shouts and screams and noise. So people in the surrounding, in the vicinity, they thought that they always fought in the house, and even the cops they entered, right, time and again, to just pacify them and make them sure that this is very quiet zone, quiet place. There are lots of families over there. It should be secured, and but thing is that they were just talking. They were just talking. It was not like they were fighting. The accent of the talk was like this screaming and shouting and huge and loud screeching. So let's get into the next paragraph. In the autumn, the young couple cleared rubbish from the backyard and turned and manured the soil under the open and measured gaze of the neighbors. They planted leeks, onions, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and broad beans, and this caused the neighbors to come to the fence and offer advice about spacing, hilling, mulching. The young man resented the interference, but he took careful note of what was said. His wife was bold enough to run a hand over the child's stubble, and the big woman with black eyes and butcher's arms gave her a bag full of garlic cloves to plant. So now in autumn, now you can see that people, those people who were shouting and screaming just to talk, they have started cultivating in their locality, in their vicinity, in a garden with different types of vegetations. Okay, so different types of vegetations are all given here, and on top of that, the neighbors also they started coming and started counseling them to have spacing, hilling, and mulching of the cultivation. But the man did not like disturbance, interference, resented means he hated the interferences of the neighbors. But his wife was quite bold enough and listened to the other ones, and also had good eye contact with them, and some of them gave a bag full of cloves to plant there. Not long after, the young man and woman built a hen house. Now they have also made a hen house. Okay, the neighbors watched it and fell down. Okay, they just watched the hen house and they fall down. The police widower slid through the fence uninvited and rebuilt it for them. They could not understand a word he said. So they had different language. They had different type of activities being conducted over there. So they did not understand each other's words and accent. But what they were doing, it was clear for everybody. They were planting and they were making hen house. Somebody was falling it down, and the other was rebuilding it. But they could not understand what suggestions and counseling they were being giving. Some were giving in French, some were giving in Spanish, some were giving in German, or some other different type of language. But this Macedonian couple, they could not understand what they were saying. Anyways, so let's get forward. As autumn merged into winter and the vermilion sunsets were followed by sudden dark dusk touched with the smell of wood smoke and the sound of roosters crowing days in. So at the end of the day, you can see the sun. There's a sunset, and the sky has turned into vermilion, is reddish color, and it has started being dark, and people started cooking. So there was a smell of wood, all right, smoke, and there were also some roosters who were crowing, making sound at the end date. Maybe it is not the morning sound. Okay. The young couple found themselves smiling back at the neighbors. They offered heads of cabbage and two gifts of grandpa and firewood. The young man worked steadily at his thesis on the development of 20th century novel. He cooked dinners for his wife and listened to her stories of eccentric patients and hospital incompetence. In the street, they no longer walked with their eyes lowered. They felt superior and proud when their parents came to visit and to cast shocked glances across the face. Now the situation occurs over here that they feel that they are superior to them. People started giving them some gifts, and grandparents also visited over there. So when in the presence of elderly people, they also started boasting about kind of love and kind of affection they received. They started exposing to the people like smartly. Okay, they felt kind of superior anyway, proud and superior when their parents came to visit. Well, in the winter again, they kept ducks. They kept ducks, big, silent Muscovies that stood about in the rain growing fat. In the spring, the Macedonian family showed them how to slaughter and to pluck, to dress. They all sat around on blocks and upturned buckets and told barely understood stories. So these people started talking some kind of things, who also showed their gestures by bringing ducks and big silent Muscovies in the vicinity. And in springs, they also showed some kind of activities like slaughter or the plucking and dressing. And they sat around, okay, on the blocks and upturned buckets and told barely understood. Hardly the people understood whatever stories that they are saying. The men butchering, right? The men butchering, the women plucking as was demanded. In the haze of down and steam and fractured dialogue, the young man and woman felt intoxicated. right? They felt like they are superior. They started talking and talking and talking, and they thought that the people are understanding what they are speaking, and they're telling stories in the fragments of dialogues which hardly could be understood. The cat toyed with several heads. The child pulled the cat's tail. The newcomers found themselves shouting, so they always started shouting and smiling at all at situations, as that's their accent of speaking. Well, my accent right now is kind of flat. Neither is in the English accent, nor is in Indian accent. It's kind of in the middle, in Nepalese accent, but it's flattened. That those people, the Macedonian couples, they have the action of screaming and shouting when they have something to talk about. But they had not planned on a pregnancy. Okay, they have not planned anything of getting a new child for them. It stunned them to be made parents so early. They did not want to become parents so early. The friends did not have children until several years after being married, if at all. The young woman arranged for maternity leave. The young man plowed on with his thesis on the 20th century novel. So it's only focusing on his 20th century novel. Mostly 20th century novel means scientific values, about science and resources, about the multiplication or the growth of the cultivation, different scientific methods of movement that occurred in 20th century. The Polish widower began to build in the late spring dawns. He sank post and poured cement and began to use his wood. The young couple turned in their bed, cursed him behind his back. The young husband at times suspected that the widower was deliberately antagonizing them. The young wife threw up in the mornings. Hay fever began to wear him down. Okay, so we do have couple who would not want to get the children very soon. They did not think that getting children would be an matter of happiness. They remember their friends not getting their children now, even after several years of marriage. Okay, so the young husband at many times suspected that widower was deliberately antagonizing, means they are kind of unhappy about, or they are criticizing, or they're suspicious about one another. Young wife threw up in the morning. Threw up in the morning. Oh my goodness. Right? Vomited. What vomited? The hay fever began to wear him out. So kind of fever started suffering from. What fever is that? Well, moving to next paragraph. Hay fever. Before long, the young couple realized that the whole neighborhood knew of the pregnancy. Now, this is what, when somebody throws up, so we expect that the woman is pregnant. We start thinking that the woman is pregnant. So, because one is vomiting, and people started saying, okay, so people started realizing that the young woman started, or the couple, one of the couples, or the couple is going to have good news about a new child. Before long, the young couple realized that the whole neighborhood knew of the pregnancy. Okay, they did not realize the whole neighbor started knowing about their new good news, let's say. People smiled tirelessly at them. The man in the deli gave her small presents of chocolates and him packets of cigarettes that he stored at home. So the people would come to him, they smile at him, at these people, especially the man husband, and then they would also give some kind of gifts like chocolates and cigarettes. Not being a smoker, though he was not a smoker. In the summer, Italian women, there were Italian migrants also, immigrants, let's say. Some Polish from Poland, some are from Italy, some are from Macedonia, some from probably Nepali and Indian as well, which is not yet mentioned over here. Italian women began to offer names. Now started giving name for the child. Oh, it can be Jack. It should be Daniel. This and that. So different names started. Maybe Italian names were offered. Greek women. There were Greek people also. Greek women stopped the young woman in the street, in the middle of the street. Right. This young wife was stopped, and then they would inquire what happened, and then obviously they would be having kind of gossips. pulled her skirt up, okay, pulled her skirt up and felt her belly, okay, checked whether there is baby in the belly, telling her it was bound to be a boy. So they expect that that this woman, this young wife, had a boy in the womb, let's say womb. So everybody was kind of freaking uh, teasing the lady. By late summer, the woman next door had knitted the baby a suit. Somebody, the next neighbor, started knitting a suit for a baby, complete with booty and beanie. Okay, the young woman felt flattered. Okay, this young woman got flattered, right? Buttered and claustrophobic, grateful, peeved, right? Different varieties of words and activities and actions. She felt emotional. By late summer, the police widower next door had almost finished his two-car garage. The young man could not believe that a man without a car would do such a thing, and one evening, as he was considering making a complaint about the noise, the policeman came over with barrow full of wood scraps with their fire. So they also need some kind of heat. The woman needs some kind of heat, so they started collecting some kind of wood scraps and then started bringing for gifting it to them, because they did not have any car. The one who had car, they could bring it from the timbers or stuff for them. They're actually preparing the beddings, and they were trying to welcome the pregnancy of the woman. Labor, okay, labor came abruptly. Suddenly, there was labor pain. Okay, the young man abandoned the 20th century novel for the telephone. Okay, now he was reading 20th century novel. He abandoned it and started picking up phone call and then making a phone call. His wife began to black the stove. The midwife came and helped her finish the job while he ran about making statements that sounded like queries. So his statements, answers sounded like questions. Okay, statements like answers or something were sounding like questions. His wife hoisted her belly about the house, supervising his movements, going outside for more wood. He saw in the last light of the day the faces at each fence. He counted 12 faces. The Macedonian family waved and called out what sounded like their best wishes. Okay, sounded like best wishes. As the night deepened, the young woman dozed between contractions, sometimes walking, sometimes shouting. She had a hot bath and began to eat ice and demand liverwort. Her belly rose, uterus flexing downward. Her sweat sparkled, the gossamer highlit by movement and firelit. The night grew older. The midwife crooned. The young man rubbed his wife's back, fed her eyes, and rubbed her lips with oil. And then came the pushing, the caress, and he caressed and stared and tried not to shout. The floor trembled as the young woman bore down in a squat. He felt the power of her, the sophistication of her. She strained, her face mottled. She kept at it, push after push, assaulting some unseen barrier, until suddenly it was smashed and she was through. It took him his wind away to see the look on the baby's face as it was suddenly passed up to the breast. It had one eye on him. It found the nipple. It trailed cord and vernix smeared, and its mother's own sweat. She gasped and covered the tiny buttocks with a hand. "A boy," she said. For a second, the child lost the nipple and began to cry. The young man heard shouting outside. He went to the back door on the Macedonian side of the fence. A small queue of bleary faces looked up cheering, and the young man began to weep. The 20th century novel had not prepared him for this. Okay, now this comes to the end of our story, and we see that Neighbors are really very helpful. Neighbors are the ones who are always there for us when we have some problem in our life, when we are in trouble, or when our effort, or when our manpower is not enough and we do not know what we have to do on our part. And our neighbors are much more experienced, and there are different kinds of neighbors: the old neighbors, the young neighbor, the energetic neighbor. Every neighbor is as useful as well as helpful, and so we must respect neighbors. So in this time of labor, when a child has to be delivered, the mother needs carers, the mother needs uh, some uh, some people around, the doctors, and also if possible we have to take the mother to deliver in the hospital. But when it was not possible, then there's maid anyway in every society would help in delivering a child. Okay, so it's a very happy ending over here. All the people are all helpful and everybody was jovial, everybody would help each other. But the thing is that they did have different culture background, they did have different language background. Whether they understood or not, they understood that the baby was being delivered because the belly was big and the woman was pregnant. So social things, social gestures people understand, though languages it might be different. Okay, coming to glossary. Okay, let's understand the word meaning of these parts where we have learned, like Macedonians, from Macedonia, southeastern Europe. Moreton Bay, a bay located on the eastern coast of Australia. As we know, the writer is from Australia, so Moreton Bay is not unexpected one of the settings that he, because he, our author, is very interested in the sea, beach, bay, water depth, and so. Well, malting means molting, hair growing. Okay, grappa means a kind of alcoholic beverage, a fragrant grape-based Italian brandy. Let's say brandy, grape brandy. Then eccentric, unconventional, and strange, very strange. Muscovy, a kind of large duck of South American origin. So we have got kind of local ducks here. We have Muscovy, a kind of duck. Claustrophobic, kind of fear, right? Phobic means fear. Afraid of living in confined places means a place where hardly there is light to place, moving spaces. Liverwort, meat sauces, also known as liver sauces. So it's sauces, liver sauces. Let's say croon, hum or sing in a low maid voice. Who was doing this one? The maid, so that could satisfy or solace or cool, or maybe give some support to the pregnant woman. Then we do have vernix, a greasy deposit covering the skin of a baby at birth. Now we do have number of questions which we obviously I would be giving separate a video for this question answers, though yeah, I'm not be having a blog for myself, I'm not be keeping they could I possible I'd make one, if not then not be making a blog, maybe like YouTube, another video for question answer itself. Like for example, describe how the young couple's house looked like in the backdrop of the beginning of this page itself. On the beginning of the story itself, it's clearly mentioned about the background setting of this house. And B, how did the young couple identify the neighbors in the beginning of their arrival? They were shouting, they were screaming in their gesture, their general talks. People were quite horrified that they were always fighting. So actually they were not. That's their accent. So how did the neighbors help the young couple in the kitchen garden? So they came up with different ideas, different councils, different cloves of like garlic to plant, and gave different type of ideas whether they understood or not. Number D, why were the people in the neighborhood surprised at the role of a young man and his wife in their family? Because they were doing something different from what others expected. So it was like kind of surprise. The man was always reading his novel, 20th century novel, while the woman was in a terrible situation. She was about to give a birth, and she's doing a normal work like anybody does. She was not being cared in the house as a family member because they are isolated. They are a single family, so no for fathers. However, they have the parents. Okay. How did the neighbors respond to the woman's pregnancy? Now, this is what so much critical type of, not critical. Let's not say critical. Kind of jovial type of, teasing words. They were sprayed while the woman was in the on the street. They found her. They found her, and then they stopped and started touching up, moving the skirts and feeling the bellies. Why did the young man begin to weep at the end of the story? Obviously, because everybody has helped at this hour of the difficulties. So, though he was never positive of anybody, he always felt superlative. He always felt superior to others. He boasted that he was being given lots of gifts, right, like prize. So he was so, in his own part of the world, while their family needed help. But other families, they were always looking at the situation of these Macedonian families, young couple. So why do you think the author did not? Why do you think the author did not characterize the persons in the story with the proper names? No names properly given to him because he was not as bold. He was very common. He was inexperienced. He was innate, and he was innately, profoundly, very innocent kind of. Did not have knowledge about how to handle the situation in this part of pregnancy. So we'll be talking about that in another video as well. Next, we do have reference to the context. It means we have RTC. Let's say RTC. We are studying from grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in different literature book. So we shortly call RTC. So a reference to context. So whatever the story is related to, in what part what has happened. So we need to identify this. For that, we need to reread the text. Okay, let's look at the question number A. The story shows that linguistic and cultural barriers do not create any obstacles in human relationship. So linguistic stands for language, and cultural activities, like because different cultures are there, so different people observe different cultures. The story shows that there is no bar, okay, there is no obstacle, that does not create any kind of obstacles to develop human relationship. So in the neighborhood, they all have started grooming up. So cite some examples from the story where the neighbors have transcended such barriers. So they have looked at them. They brought timbers. They brought the ideas of plantation. They brought something that they are needed. They also came up with some gifts, chocolates, cigars, etc., so that they could build their rapport with the newly arrived Macedonian couple. Okay, number B, the last sentence of the story reads, the 20th century novel had not prepared him for this. In your view, what differences did the young man find between 20th century novels and human relations? Now, this particular question arises, like as I just said in the beginning, like 20th century novel specially focuses on the scientific inventions, technological development, maybe a ambulance, maybe hospitals, maybe doctors, maybe engineers, and so it is focusing on the movement of the development of science and technology. Despite having science and technology, there is no significant touch in the story, but there was emotion of the human beings. That's like moral values. So moral values have played vital roles compared to the scientific development, like doctor or nurse, hospital, or ambulance or something. So there was human values much more valued in this particular pretext, in this context. So this is what the difference in this particular lesson lies. That's why he threw this 20th century novel was reading, he put it aside, he started crying because this particular thing did not, scientific invention did not help him. So he just put it aside, and they cried for longing for the love, the affection, for the support that his neighbors have given. So that is what the final statement signifies. Symbolic meaning, let's say metaphorical meaning. You can also say image in this 20th century novels. It's an image of science and technology. Number C, a Nepali proverb says, we do have Nepali word as well, neighbors are companions for wedding procession as well as for funeral procession. Okay, छिमेकी भनेको विवाहको लागि र मलामीको लागि उत्तिकै साथी बन्छन्. Heart touching statement. Alright, Does this proverb apply in the story? Justify. Obviously, there is much more human relationship rather than depending on telephone or depending on ambulance or depending on doctors or hospitals. There are people, there are maids of classical, labor assistant, helper. So we can say that the neighbors have always been there. They've always been coming and helping with all the stops like beddings, fire, even looking after the woman and giving um, some kind of rest and help. Okay, so different types of assistance and coordinations were given as best companions do. Number D, the author has dealt with an issue of multiculturalism in the society. This is an issue of culturalism. Let's say culturalism, multicultural. There are many cultures in migrated areas, America, Australia. Okay, let's say northern America. We do have Canada. So many of the people have been migrating and getting green cards from different part of the world. So it is one of the reasons that there is issue of multiculturalism. People observe their own cultures, that they have got different type of culture. One house has one culture, maybe a Australian culture, maybe another one has French culture, another has Macedonian culture, another has Indian culture. So different people have different type of cultures in a single locality, in a single vicinity, let's say in a single neighborhood. So this is what issue is shown. Actually was trying to show different type of issues of multiculturalism in the locality. Why do you think multiculturalism has become a major issue in the present world? Because migration. Simple. Because of migration, people have been migrating from one culture to another culture. They are not able to, they are not able to adopt a new culture in that locality where they are migrating. They find they miss actually their own religion, their own culture of their own country, despite migrating for the sake of job or for the sake of better living standard with the help of science and technology. Still they feel isolated. Still they feel like they are unknown. There is identity crisis. We will be studying diaspora also, okay, where people have been migrating and they are crying to go back to their own country. Many of the people are saying that we will just earn up to at the or up to or at till the age of 40, right? In Nepali also there is a song, 40 सम्म कमाउला 40 पछि रमाउला. That means up to 40 they would be working hard and earning, and after that they will utilize the money that they have earned, and then they spend their entire life back in their own homeland. So the issue this issue has multiculturalism has arose in many of the places, and it ended in battles also. Like Indians and Australians, they always having battles. Most of the time they are having battles. There are some institutions, the colleges, let's say universities, which without the kind of dominion of one culture to another, let's say they're always dominating. They're not dominating, let's say they're criticizing, and they're not helping, they're not supporting one another. Whites in the kind of blacks, browns kind of racism. So these type of issues have already been aroused. It's arising because of multicultural people from different part of the world. Finally, we do have reference beyond the text, something beyond what it is, right? Write an essay on celebration of childbirth in your community, in my community. Now in my community, when child is born, what will happen? So from the preparation, Indian culture, they have got God Bharai. From God Bharai onwards, post birth ceremonial activities after the birth of a child. So there are purification, there are procession, feeding, the different baptism. So different types of processions are there in our community. So in detail we can write an essay on about 300 to 400 words. That's this is for grade 12. So 300 to 400 words, we not exceeding 400 words anyways. As far as possible, we need to cram within 300 words with high standard vocabulary, a specific vocabulary, let's say to the point vocabulary. Next, number B, do the people in your community respond with similar reaction upon the pregnancy and childbirth as depicted in the story? Give a couple of examples. Obviously many of us are going to give the similar examples, because we do have similar culture. We do not have multicultural in our locality, though we have multicultural in the center areas like Kathmandu residential areas, right? In typical old areas, they're still having a similar community and similar culture. And the migrated areas where they have got issues, the similar type of issues like in America or Australia, but still we have the harmony and we understand each other. Okay, that comes to the end of the reading of the Neighbours, right? Written by written by Win Tim. What is his name? Yes, we do have 188 page number, so we have got Team Winton, Australia. Okay, thank you very much CDC for once again for bringing us this particular book, publishing it successfully and giving us e-copy, um, so that we can approach and we can have teaching learning activities around our country. So at this time of pandemic, we are not able to meet person by person. Well, thanks very much for being here, and the upcoming readers, those of you who are not able to go to college and those of you who are not able to get online classes, right? Online classes, grade 12 students of this year, all right? Still, you can get some help from this particular video, and you're going to get another 2 more videos for summary as well as the way of answering different type of questions, like approaching question, 4 level of answering the question. So I'll be coming up with those videos separately, not as live, but live I'll try to come for another lesson probably tomorrow. Okay, bye for now, take care everybody, bye bye.